All right, Josh, give me permission to record on this.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I have to. I got to ask permission. It looks good.
Yeah.
What's up, Flexies? Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me, Chris Erryx. I am the host of the most, Baby Trump, AKA. I have a good friend sitting in with us today. Is going to blow your mind. So if you're out there and you're wondering, well, what if this? And how about this? And is this going to happen? And when is this going to happen? He is about to set you straight. A couple of things I want to talk about real quick. Obviously, IGF-1, I've been taking that. That is the Velvet Deer Spray. Go to my website, flexthetruth.com. We're still doing the buy one, get two free. That's right, buy one, get two free. Go on there. Also, bonefrogwarrior.com. Josh, you know that. That's Navy SEALs. That's my boy, Jeff, owns that company. I was wearing his clothes the other day, so you want to get on there as well. I just want to get myself out of the way because, when you have a guest that has a plethora of knowledge, you guys know I'm a digger. You guys know I'm a seeker of truth. And no BS, no gray, black and white. I talked to this guy one time and I was introduced to him by somebody. And I'll tell you, I was in the hospital and I was like, dude, I love you, man. I love what you're about. I asked him a couple of questions, want to see where him and our views were aligned. And not even so much our views, but how off we were from one another. And let me tell you something. We were right on with one another. And everything we've talked about, we really see eye to eye on. So it's my honor, my privilege to bring up Joshua REID from Red Pill TV. What's up, Josh?
What's up, Chris? How we doing, man?
Well, fine. So you just got back from AZ. We're at the Trump rally.
Yeah, I caught the COVID nanovirus out there.
God bless you.
I was in Dallas and I didn't get sick, but I had a lot of friends did. We know Doug,
right?
Doug died, and then a few other people
Pulitzer,
got. Actually, another guy that I met there was talking with. He owns a Christian social network out there. And met him. He ended up passing away as well. My age, 43 years old. Yeah.
I was talking to.
I'll get the name for you. Mike Miller was telling me. Mike Miller, Warriors and for Ranchers.
Yeah.
We were both sitting there talking with him. The guy was going to get us verified on his social network. And he got COVID and passed away from the Dallas event. So that was another one. Then I went to Phoenix and we had a great time. But then all of a sudden I noticed a lot of people were like, and then coughing and came home and I got sick, and it was the weirdest crap in the world because I haven't been sick at all throughout this whole ordeal. And I started feeling it. So I started bumping up my ivermectin. I started taking some hydroxychloroquine, some azithromycin, started taking all these things. And Chris, this is the odd thing. I'm a smart dude. I'm very well studied, very well researched, very well educated. I grew up with a biological toxicologist who got a PhD from MIT. My father developed molecular modeling software for pharmaceutical firms. I was, the American Chemical Society Student of the Year multiple years in a row. I understand biotech. Okay,
right.
Understand this stuff like the back of my hand. I got sick and I had just kind of like a tickle, not a sore throat, tickle.
Right.
And immediately went to a fever and a headache. And my fever went to 105 degrees. My eyes were on fire. My ears were on fire. Okay. Mm-hmm. It broke that night. The next morning I wake up and then I have body aches. Then the body aches lasted about 24 hours. Mm-hmm. I wake up the next day. Then I have like laryngitis. Then I have the next day a sore throat and a little bit of congestion. And I said, this thing just went ass backwards. It's supposed to be you get like a sore throat, congestion, a cough, you get the laryngitis, you get the upper respiratory, then the body aches set in, and then you get the fever breaks, and you're done. And this thing went ass backwards. Not only did it go ass backwards, it was like it partitioned itself. Because here's the thing, I shouldn't have went to a fever and a headache with like no other symptoms. It just made no sense. Yeah. And I'm like, up to that point, I thought it was like a virus, obviously a lab-made bioweapon virus. Then all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, this thing's a nanotechnology device. This is computer software that is broken. Like Omicron is a computer software that is broken. And I'm a firm believer of this now. Like after having it and having it in my system, I had dreams those 2 nights when I had the body aches and the fever, I had dreams. And I'm one of those people that I can extrapolate very, very high conceptual ideas down to a very, very low level and explain it to people. I can take like very complex things and I can understand them. I get them. These dreams that I had, I can't even put into words in reality. I can't even explain what was happening. I can't even, like, I know there was an interaction. I know there was a communication. Right. I don't know what it was, who it was I was talking to, what it was. It felt foreign. And it felt so foreign, like I was talking to an alien species.
I was just going to say,
like you
were talking to like something extraterrestrial.
Well, now when I think back on it and I look back on kind of how the illness progressed and stuff like that, I honestly think what the dreams were this nanotechnology trying to communicate with a main AI or computer system. And I was just interfering with that communication. And I swear, like I've always said that whatever this evil is that's being perpetuated on this planet right now, and I go into the occult origins of evil, about how all these things work. I've been doing this for well over 25 years, is that whatever this is, it's not human.
Nah.
And we can call it satanic, we can call it demonic, we can call it extraterrestrial, interdimensional, parasitic. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not human. And I thought
all of that, Josh.
Well, it could be, but I thought for a while,
demonic, satanic,
that it's an artificial intelligence.
Yep.
And a lot of this has to do with technology that we supposedly got from reverse engineered alien technology. Now, this actually makes a lot of sense if you go back and you can kind of put together the story of, like, I don't know if you ever got into the whole QAnon thing, right?
Yep, sure did.
Like, okay, so I can tell you the origins of how the actual Q thing came about.
Can you tell us? Look, because I think people need to hear that, because there's so many stories, but you know the origins of it. So
So here's the thing: is we have to start connecting dots, and one thing that I'm really good at, it's called pearl stringing in the Bible. Right, is I take things and I can put them together in a very logical and rational fashion and make sense of them. The January 6th event, there is a dude that was walking around filming Jaden X. Remember this guy?
Yep.
John Sullivan.
John
Sullivan was actually adopted. Did you know this?
Now what?
John Sullivan was actually adopted. Did you know this?
No.
So John Sullivan was actually adopted, and his father is a retired 3-star Air Force general.
Wow.
Well, so when you start looking into this guy, okay, and you go, well, isn't that interesting that his father's like an adopted father is a 3-star Air Force general? Because you got to remember, we go to de Blasio in New York City, and he's a communist, and he's got this African-American daughter. That doesn't make sense. What's going on here, right? So I start researching this, and it comes to find out that his father was actually part of a major scandal back in 2007. And so I start looking into this scandal, and I was in the military during this time. I was 10 years in the United States Navy. And so I understand a few of the protocols and how some of these things work. And I started looking into this scandal, and a lot of the things don't make sense. And you can start seeing that there's a surface level cover up of what this scandal actually was. Well, General Sullivan was the head of the Defense Logistics Agency in Utah. Okay. There's another company called EG&G. Do you know a guy by the name of Bob Lazar? You ever heard of this name, Bob Lazar?
Yep.
He worked at Area 51 S4. He worked on reverse engineering of alien craft. Well, back in his documentary, if you watch it on Netflix, he'll say, look, the biggest problem that our government had was that we compartmentalized the technology. So we try to reverse engineer it, but we compartmentalize the team. So the propulsion team is not talking to the energy protection team, who's not talking to the computer team. And he goes, it's a great disservice to the reverse engineering. He says, the only way we can really get around to this is to get this technology into the universities and allow college students to work on it. This is what Bob Lazar says. Well, Bob Lazar worked for a company called EG&G. Well, guess what? EG&G just happens to be the defense contractor that is overseeing all the classified technologies at the Defense Logistics Agency. So you start reading this report, and what happens is you have Minuteman III nuclear triggers. These are the triggers for the ICBMs in our nuclear arsenal. They get pulled off the shelf in Minot, North Dakota. and sent to the Defense Logistics Agency in Utah. Okay. Once they get there, these Mark III Minuteman nuclear triggers are declassified immediately. Declassified. By the way, in order to be declassified, the head of the base, the 3-star general, has to sign off on that. Sure. Declassified and labeled helicopter batteries and put on a declassified shelf. A year later, those helicopter batteries are sent to Taiwan. They get put on a boat and they're on their way over to China. Because in 2007, circa 2007, Taiwan really wasn't like separated from China. They had a lot of criminal organizations, including the triads, which would do exactly what we're talking about here. So Taiwanese intelligence agencies interdict this shipment. They find these Minuteman III nuclear triggers. There weren't Minuteman III nuclear triggers. They send them back to the United States and they say, hey, why are these labeled helicopter batteries? Well, 10 top brass in our military lose their jobs over this, including John Sullivan's freaking father, the 3-star general who was overseeing the Defense Logistics Agency and who had to have signed off on the declassification of this high-level technology. Now, here's the thing. What happens when we lose high-level technology in our United States military, like a nuclear weapon or something like that? Isn't there a certain thing that occurs?
Protocol. Right.
Yeah, there's a certain protocol called broken arrow or broken arrow protocols.
Right.
Well, when this actually happened, you probably had exactly that happen. Now, they're not going to go to Congress and Senate and the president because those people are just temporary employees. They're going to call upon basically patriots of this country who've been in our government, our bureaucracy for 30 years, who are known patriots, most likely brass, but they would probably pull in a senator or a congressman. Well, I started looking, I said, well, who would they have called in Congress or Senate who is a very patriotic person, who's probably on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, who's probably on the Armed Services Forces Committee, right? And I started looking and I only can find one person in our entire government that fits that bill during that time frame in 2007. And that person's a guy by the name of Jeff Sessions. So I start looking and I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of things happening here, right? So they open up this investigation. They obviously find these 10 brass guilty. They force them in the retirement. Okay, that pisses them off. But they have an underlining factor. Somebody is selling highly classified U.S. military technology to the Chinese. Okay, that obviously they're going to investigate this. So they start investigating this, but 3 months later, Barack Obama comes into office. Immediately, Barack Obama negotiates trade, brings China into U.S. infrastructure, and starts basically doing a collaboration with educational institutions in China. Not only that, is he rips apart our military. He basically starts firing generals and admirals, and he starts defunding projects in the black budget.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, this is very interesting because my belief is, and I don't have very much evidence to actually prove this, but my belief is that he tried to defund the project that was trying to investigate who was selling state secrets to China. Okay. So this project that they're investigating has to go dark. It has to go special access project, right? So they bury it deep into the defense intelligence structure, right? The Defense Intelligence Agency and the National Security Agency. So what they do is they continue this investigation and researching into who in our government is selling secrets to China. And the NSA and the DIA start investigating congressmen, senators, executive branch officials, the bureaucracy. They start spying on American citizens. Well, one of the people who's probably one of the prima facie people involved in this gets wind of this. He's over at the CIA. He sends one of his proteges over to the NSA to infiltrate this group that's spying on Americans. That person, that protege, his name was Edward Snowden.
Yep.
And Edward Snowden comes out and says, oh, they're spying on American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And they blow it all out of the water. Well, guess what? They weren't spying on American citizens. Well, they were. They were spying on the people who were selling technology to China. And they just ousted this whole team that was looking at it. This is the original Q team.
Whoa.
This is why who was the police force at the NSA that was hunting Snowden? Do you know the name?
No.
Called the Q Group. Called the Q Group. And it's a highly classified group of investigators at the NSA that investigate crimes against the NSA and against the intelligence community, called the Q Group. Okay, so we have a lot of things start happening around this time. We're talking about 2010 to 2015 now, right? Yep. So this project gets thrown under the wind. Now, basically, the bad guys think they're in the clear and they start basically selling and doing transactions with China. Well, people in our intelligence community realize this. And so what happens next is Anthony Weiner gets thrown under the bus, and this basically sparks off Pizzagate, because you have Huma Abedin having backup data, backup blackmail data, because her father is the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, on Hillary Clinton, that is stored on Anthony Weiner's laptop. The 16 investigators in New York City take this laptop. They find horrific evidence on it. The FBI comes and claims it later on. But either way, this is the beginning of what we call Pizzagate. Now, the NSA actually puts a tweet out there around circa 2013, I think it was. It said, "Investigate Pizzagate. This tweet will delete." Yeah, the NSA actually said, remember Michael Flynn actually put out tweets very similar to that. The spirit cooking is real, all these things. The reason they were doing this is because they had lost their power and authority to investigate it, because they were being defunded. And now the CIA with Brennan had all eyes on them. And so what they needed to build a citizen investigative committee to go out there and start getting this information, utilizing the internet, a system of digital soldiers, to go out there and start pushing this information and getting as much of it as possible out there. So some very interesting things happen here. At the same time that this is all happening, Hillary Clinton's email server gets leaked.
That's right. Yep.
Now, if you remember, when Trump investigated this, there is few different investigations. One of the primary investigations was the Horowitz report. This is more of an accounting and finance report on Hillary Clinton's emails. But I think it's about page 233 in the Horowitz report. He starts talking about metadata in the back end of Hillary Clinton's home server. And this metadata had a script that would be initiated and send an email that they traced to an IP address that was offshore in China. Okay. And they find out that the only way that the script gets initiated is when Hillary Clinton forwards or replies to a specific email. Now, the Horowitz report actually went in there and did an audit and found out that all the emails that Hillary Clinton forwarded and replied from her home server, every single one of them, she was never supposed to be included in the first place. And every single one of them involved something known as a special access program. And she was never supposed to be in on those in the first place. So there's massive intent from Hillary Clinton sending these emails to this Chinese email address. We'll get into what was in those emails in a second. We have, so they investigate this. You have the Inspector General of the Intelligence Committee. His name is Inspector General McCullough. Okay. He's testifying in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And you have the chairman sitting there going, "So, Inspector General, what was in Hillary Clinton's emails that she was forwarding and replying to?" And he goes, "Classified." He goes, no. Why didn't you tell me what was in them? He goes, "Classified." He goes, "I'm the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. I have the highest security clearance in our freaking government. Do we need to go to a closed door session?" He goes, "Even if we did, I wouldn't be able to tell you. It's that classified." He goes, "Sir, I'm the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community. They won't even tell me what is in those emails, what was in those projects. They briefly summarized and read me into just a little bit. And I can tell you, they are the most top secret classified weapons projects in our military that the president doesn't even know about, and Congress and Senate doesn't even know about, and never will know about." Okay. So that's the severity of what Hillary Clinton was sending in these emails. Well, once Trump gets in, and obviously we know what happens here, and I want to make this connection for everybody. If you go back to the Q post, I believe it was Q post like 121 or 14. It was one of these ones. It's Q talking about how they utilized the NSA and they deleted the logs of spying on Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch in Arizona on the tarmac. And they deleted the logs and they took the recording and they utilized that as blackmail against James Comey 3 days before the election. They have James Comey actually reopened the email investigation into Hillary Clinton, which dropped her numbers, and they say utilized as a mechanism for Donald Trump to win the election in 2016. But Q goes on to say, and Q says specifically, "We tipped off a reporter in Arizona to Lynch and Bill Clinton's meeting on the tarmac." Now, Q is specifically saying less than 10 people that are in the Q team, and that Q says we tipped him off. Now, this guy's his name is Christopher Sine. He died in June 2021. He was hung from a doorknob with an apparent suicide, by the way, for everybody out there to understand this. Okay. His name's Christopher Sine. You can read his biography, and he says that he was tipped off by a Washington insider that was very high in the intelligence community. Okay. That goes by the name S. Interesting how Christopher Syme, before Q ever came up in his biography, talking about the tarmac meeting, is referencing a one-letter name by the name of S. Now, Christopher Syme was a former D1 football player, University of Alabama.
Right.
Who else is an alma mater of the University of Alabama had the same fraternity as Christopher Syme? Do you want to take a wild guess? Jeff Sessions.
Oh my gosh.
Sessions, S, Washington Insider, tipped them off. We tipped off a reporter. Who do you think you're talking to there? Jeff Sessions is that guy from 2007 that was in the investigative committee. See how this all starts to fit together. So part of the Q team was Jeff Sessions. Part of the Q team was Admiral Rogers. Part of the Q team was Michael Flynn. Whether they call themselves the Q team or not, once Trump came in, Michael Flynn gets immediately ejected, right? They hammer them, okay? And they realize there's a problem, that the plan that they had that they were going to do is now screwed up, and that they have to wake up the people, they have to wake up their digital army, and they have to build a digital army. See, what they did is they created what we know of nowadays as Q, and they created a psychological warfare campaign directed towards a Christian ideology to build a digital army, to build an actual physical real army, because they knew at some point that communism is going to be rushing into America, and that they only had 4 years to wake up people and get people updated on what was happening in our world and how Satanism and how communism has taken over. And so this is how I know I'm spot on this. Some of the first things that Mike Pompeo and Donald Trump did when they came in the office is they shut down a program of education exchange with China. It was called the 1,000 Talents Program. Now, Chris, I want you to think about this for a minute. What was in Hillary Clinton's emails, the special assets program emails that she was sending over to China? Do you remember Bob Lazar, what he said about compartmentalized technology? Yep. He said that we need to get it into the universities. You know what was in those emails that Hillary Clinton was forwarding to China? It was the universities and the professors that were working on advanced alien technology and reverse engineering them. And what she was doing, she was sending the information of which universities and which professors were working on this. Did you know that out of the 28 professors that were arrested under the Trump administration and the universities that were fined, every single one of them had a Department of Energy, a NASA, a Department of Defense, and a DARPA contract?
Wow.
That was what Q team was created for, was to stop the trade of high advanced technology to China that was being done to undermine the Americans, which this technology is eventually going to be utilized against the American people.
Right.
That was what the Q team was all created for. It came out of these events of weapon technology being sent over to China and someone in our government selling it. You connect the dots. Snowden, you have the Iron Massacre, you have Ukraine, you have Russia, you have the whole Russia setup. And this is all now playing out again 100% because they have to take out the American people. They have to take out America. And this is the whole point. Correct. This is what we've all been awoken up for, is to stop this from happening right now. So for that whole Q thing, for everybody out there, it's a proxy board of communication. Okay. It had validation, had validity. But here's the thing, is you are the plan. You and me and this whole audience, we're the plan. We are the plan. Now, the original plan, I believe, failed. That what they were going to do, original plan failed. We are now the plan. It is up to us to save this country. Okay. And so I'll give you a little hint here. You notice that Q didn't start until about 2 weeks after Donald Trump met with a whole bunch of admirals and generals, right? And you remember he goes, you guys all know what this is?
Yep.
This is the calm before the storm, right?
Before the storm, right?
And they said, what storm? He said, you'll find out. Now, a lot of people thought that that meant our storm against the bad guys, but it was never that. The storm is communism coming to America. And the calm is not CALM. It was COMM. The communication before the storm. They knew all of this was going to happen. They knew that they were going to steal the election. People need to see what is happening. The people can't be told, they need to see.
Right.
All of this had to happen to wake the people up en masse. That's why we had the communication, Q, 3.5 years of Q, before the actual storm hit, COVID and so forth, and everything that's about to come. And this shit is just getting started, people.
I'm telling you. Trump didn't pardon Snowden before he left?
It could be. I think Snowden didn't realize he was being used as a pawn. honestly. I honestly think that Snowden didn't realize he's being used as a pawn. You got to remember, and this goes back to a billionaire by the name of Alderson, a Vegas billionaire, Alderson. Now, this is kind of interesting because he had ties to the Mossad in Israel, big ties to the Mossad in Israel. And Alderson was actually working with Pompeo as director of the CIA to kill and assassinate Julian Assange. Okay. And we actually know this because one of the nights that it was planned was at Trump's hotel or Trump's casino with Trump present with Pompeo and Alderson in Las Vegas. Now, it's interesting because that was the same night as the Vegas shooting.
I was just going to ask you that.
It's the same night of the Vegas shooting.
Where he was with the
almost like a warning across the bow.
Jamboree. Yep. The country jamboree.
Now, here's the thing is why would they want to take out Julian Assange? So a lot of people think Julian Assange is a freedom fighter and he's out there for truth and all this stuff. But apparently Julian Assange has some information on some people. That's some really bad stuff. And bad stuff.
Is he Trump's cousin?
I don't think so. But I from what I've heard is that there's a lot of people on so I call it the Hydra. So you have the elites of the world and it's basically a Hydra, multiple heads, and they all fucking hate each other and they all want to eat each other. Okay. Yeah. And a lot of the information that Julian Assange actually has got American lives killed, and he could have stopped it from happening. So he got American military members killed overseas because he didn't release the data. Even though they say they came out and they talked to the State Department denied it. There were certain things that he held that could have saved lives, and he didn't. So apparently they wanted to get rid of him. And if they got rid of him, now they can actually release the data that he had. Now think about that. Think about that logically. If Julian Assange went away, now they have that dead man switch and they can release it to the world. And that would have been part of the disclosure of what we were seeing, Wiener's laptop, Hillary Clinton's server information. Then we have Julian Assange's dead man switch. We would have had all this information coming out at the same time. But you notice none of this information has been released. This tells you, at least in my opinion, that white hats aren't in control. Patriots aren't in control. I was just going to say, and when they're saying white hats are in control, no, they're not. Also, does that have a lot to do with McAfee too? So McAfee was one of Epstein's good friends. McAfee, I think, was highly integrated. I think McAfee might have been one of the reasons why Julian Assange got Hillary Clinton's information. Right. That's the rumor on the street, is that McAfee is the one who provided the access to the servers, because she was running McAfee on there, by the way. Right. And he had all that backdoor data. And he's actually the one that leaked it to WikiLeaks or gave it to Russia or whatever it was. But McAfee was definitely killed. And they only killed him after they had neutralized his dead man switch. Correct. So just remember that. That's why they haven't gotten Julian Assange yet, because they haven't gotten his dead man switch. But McAfee, they neutralized his dead man switch and they got him. And the reason is because, do you want to know what my theory is on McAfee's dead man switch? Yeah. He gave it to one of his good friends. Her name's Ghislaine Maxwell. I was just going to say. So if Ghislaine has Epstein's dead man switch and has McAfee's dead man switch. Because I think she was the one. Epstein was just the face and voice. Maxwell, I always said, was the one that ran everything. Well, look at her father. Yeah, absolutely. Her father was killed by the Russian oligarchs because of the blackmail that he had on them that he collected directly for the Mossad. Right. Whoa. So she is, I mean, she's high level. Yeah. But here's the thing: she's afraid for her life right now. Oh, I'm telling you. But the only reason that she's still alive is because she has Epstein's and McAfee's dead man switch. Correct. Right. The only reason that she's still alive, because if she goes away, that gets triggered and all of that goes out there. Okay. That's how they knew they could take out McAfee and not prompt any of it. And they want to eliminate as much as possible in the connectedness to this whole operation that was going on. Now, a lot of this operation, by the way, was most likely being propagated by the Chinese. Well, and it's funny that's why I brought up McAfee, because when that all happened, I was like, he was the one that got the information to Hillary, because it would make sense. And he's the one that would leak WikiLeaks because he has the access to, he has the back door. Yeah. Why do you think he was hiding in Belize?
Yeah.
Why do you think he would not come back to this country? It has nothing to do with taxes.
No.
Why do you think they framed him for his neighbor's murder?
Right.
I mean, come on, man. They went after him hard.
Yep.
It was specifically at the times that they were going after Epstein as well. Because what happened is, now I got a theory on this. And we all
believe that I don't believe that he's dead. I don't believe that.
Epstein or McAfee?
Epstein. No, McAfee's dead. Epstein, I believe not.
I question it because I saw Anthony Bourdain's photos the same time, Epstein's photos, the ears, and I saw all that. The dude that killed him is now dead too. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. And
he is too much. He is too much. You know what I mean?
Well, it'd be hard for him to survive outside of it, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be hard for him. He'd have to go get plastic surgery on his face and change up a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But either way, is the damage is done. And what they were doing on that island, a lot of the things that they did is it's not necessarily that Jeffrey Epstein was a Satanist or evil. I don't think he was. But they would play in to the fetishes of their clientele, their client base. Mm-hmm. And some of them are high priestess in what we know of as the Church of Satan. And it's actually, when I say the Church of Satan, people are thinking like, Baphomet statues and stuff like this. Baphomet statue has nothing to do with the Church of Satan. For everybody out there, the Baphomet statue was actually created by a guy by the name of Eliphas Levi from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in 1878. And it's a picture representing the crossing or the Passover of the sun over the Tropic of Capricorn, representing the rebirth of a new season. Okay. I come from 25 years of occult practice and study and understanding. This is where my domain is. Okay. The Satanists, they use this Baphomet statue to taunt the shit out of people who don't understand symbology. Now, when we start talking about high level Satanism, when I say high level Satanism, we're talking about inversion of knowledge, inversion of information, inversion of symbology. And we're talking about keeping people in a state of ignorance, because that is the ultimate sacrifice, is when you can put knowledge right in front of somebody and they lay ignorant to that knowledge. That is the ultimate sacrifice. And that is one of the primary things, the rituals they do to bring about this energy structure. Now, we talked about how these things, I don't know about this evil actually being human. Okay.
I don't think it is. I think it has to take, I think it needs a host. But I believe it could go into just in the air. Right.
Well, so you teach how to properly hug, Chris, right?
Right.
Now there's a thing about properly hugging where you want the hearts to actually touch and connect, and you want that electromagnetic field. Right. Yeah, that electromagnetic field to actually connect and absorb with another human being. Right. We're energetic beings. Right. Our spirits and souls exist on a different dimensional level, but we're energetic beings.
We're frequency.
Yeah, we're frequency. That's right.
73% of water. So think
that's right.
Frequency, 73% of water.
You want to hear something pretty cool?
Yeah.
You ever heard that we're carbon-based life forms?
Yes.
We're not. We're water-based life forms.
Yeah, because we're 73%. So that wouldn't make sense.
Well, how about this? Is you ever heard how we need oxygen to survive, that we live off of oxygen?
Yep.
What if oxygen was the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man that actually put us into an amnesic state?
What?
The air that you're breathing is only 14% oxygen. It's 62% nitrogen. We actually breathe nitrogen.
Ooh. Our bodies take it in, and we
as well as water vapor, which is over the other 30% of composition of the air.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Say this again.
So what if oxygen was actually the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man that puts us into a amnesic state and actually kills us slowly over time? They say 80 years of oxygen exposure will actually kill you. Think about it. What does oxygen do to your cells? Produces oxidative stress.
Yeah, right.
You remember in the Bible how Methuselah lived 900 years?
Yeah.
Wonder what was different.
Wow. So there's some truth to that, because do you remember when oxygen bars were really big?
Yeah.
I think Prince had one, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So I was going to open one in Philadelphia. So they said, so it was told, after they go to the club and everything, they would go to these oxygen bars. There were a couple in Vegas too.
Yeah, to get you high as shit.
I was just gonna say, they would get this high that they couldn't get. Dude, that is blowing my mind.
Now let me ask you. So how about this? You're a bodybuilder, right?
Yeah.
What is the one of the best things to increase capillary size and blood flow in your body? NO2.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Nitrous
oxide.
Right.
Nitrogen. Nitrogen. Oh, come on, man. It's pretty easy.
That's right. NTO. Yes.
So when we start looking at the world that's around us, what if we've all been duped? And I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I love being a conspiracy theorist, but I like showing things to people.
I like to talk about things, right? What if?
Right.
What if?
What if? Right. So water, we're water-based beings. We've seen this in The Secret Life of Water. You can watch this documentary. It talks about Dr. Emoto and his research on water, how you can take water and you can say, I love you to the water, and you freeze it and forms these beautiful fractal crystals. And you can say, I hate you. And it forms these destructive patterns. Wow. And water formulates to intentional energy.
Sure does.
We're water beings. That's what our whole emotional system's all about. We're water beings, man. That's what every form of life existent that we know of in this universe lives in water. It has something to do with water. It has water within its system. Right. And water is not a small portion of the system. It's the majority of the system itself. Right. And it would make sense that life is based off of a complex molecular structure and not a simplistic elemental like carbon. And I've always asked this to scientists. I said, show me one species of life on this planet that is made out of simple carbon. No, none.
I can't think of one.
No, but you have hydrocarbons.
Right.
And that's when oxygen and hydrogen come together. And that's where organic molecules begin to form, as oxygen and hydrogen come together and formulate more complex structures. And one of the first forms and most simplistic of that is water, H2O. And it's almost incorporated into every single aspect of organic material has that chemical composition within it. And all life, 100% all life, the majority of all life is composed of water. We are water-based beings.
So that brings up a great point. You ever have ionized water?
Absolutely.
So I was telling somebody, as a matter of fact, as early as last night, this is crazy. I got goosebumps just even talking about this with you. This is why I love you. We were talking about this last night where I took IGF-1 that I have, deer antler spray, but I took, after 30 seconds, I took ionized water. That hit me like I just got knocked out because of ionized water, like what you're saying, right?
Yep.
It totally hit my bloodstream so much quicker, and the absorption was like 80%. Whereas when we drink regular water, it's what, 14%?
Yep.
The absorption.
What does a baby breathe in the womb?
Water. Amniotic fluid, water.
Yeah. You know, when
a woman's pregnant, it's the first thing that happens to her.
Their water breaks.
Her water breaks.
Yeah. Think about admiralty and maritime law. It's all dictated upon the laws of water, the laws of two banks, right. Of the flow and the currency of water. Yeah. Everything is about water because water is life.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's your red pill for the day.
Good. Oh, so, I love it. I always, especially when your body is made up of 73% water.
Yeah.
Right? Your brain is made up of 70% water. So when people don't realize that, they don't understand that. They're thinking, no, there's no way. No, there is a way. Do you know you could drown yourself by drinking too much water?
Absolutely.
People, that's crazy to think about. You could literally drown yourself from drink. You could kill yourself. You can OD over water. Why is that? Because what you said, we're water beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And so there's actually a fourth phase of water that's actually created in the body in living beings. The fourth stage of water. And it's this it's this gelatinous form of water. So the scientists have always wondered how the cells hold water the way they do in the vacuoles. And they come to find out that it actually forms a new stage of water, a new form of water that's like this plasma. And this is kind of how all our metabolic processes take part. This is how the mitochondria actually optimize themselves, is through the utilization of this plasma in our body systems. Dude, water is so critical. And interesting enough is, what do you think they're doing to our planet right now? You know, global warming, people want to think that global warming is not real. Okay. I'm not one of those people. Okay. I think that global warming is definitely bullshit, that they're utilizing it as an agenda against us. But
population, right?
Guess what they're doing? They are manipulating the weather to screw up our climate. They are definitely doing this. They are producing droughts. They're using directed energy weapons to create fires. They are using HARP to manipulate the weather.
Tornadoes.
Let me tell you this is you know, I've studied science for a very long time, physics. HARP. So HARP actually utilizes extremely low frequencies to manipulate weather patterns. And the way it does this is they realized a long time ago that the weather here on the planet is directly connected to the sun in the sky. Right. Now, there's a few things that happen here. Is you have cosmic wave bombardment within our sun, and then you have solar radiation that comes off of our sun. And then the earth kind of adjusts its magnetic field. Now I'm going to give you kind of an esoteric or occult perspective, very, very old science on this planet of how our planet actually operates. And earth scientists are going to sit there and go, oh shit, that makes a lot of sense. And hear me out for a second.
Okay.
Remember how I was telling you before this that I made a few predictions and they've came true?
Yep.
Anytime that there's going to be a coronal mass ejection, we'll usually have an earthquake 2 or 3 days before a coronal mass ejection. What does that mean? It's before the sun puts out these massive solar flares. Right. A few days before, we're going to have an earthquake. The reason this happens is because the sun and the earth are actually conscious and in communication with each other. Okay. They're energetically connected. Now, what happens is the sun usually is going to put out a coronal mass ejection because of its connectiveness to the galactic center. And so the galactic rays come out and they bombard the sun, but they first go by the earth. So the earth says, oh my God, that's a lot of cosmic rays heading toward the sun. I better adjust my magnetic field to protect myself against a coronal mass ejection. And so our earth actually has, so how does the earth create its magnetic field? They still don't know yet. They don't know, Chris. They don't know how the earth creates a magnetic field. Well, the only way to create a magnetic field, okay, is with an electric field. They're correspondent, right? So there's a process that actually occurs is if you have something known as a piezoelectric effect, okay? This means that if I induce a mechanical strain onto a crystal, that crystal will resonate with an electric frequency, right? Okay, and give off a magnetic field. Well, that's exactly what happens at the core of the earth. Our earth is much like a hydraulic system. It puts pressure on the core of the earth. Okay. And that core of the earth resonates or vibrates at a certain electrical propensity and produces a magnetic field. Now, when it sees that the sun is going to give off a coronal mass ejection, it has to alleviate pressure on one side or increase pressure on the other side. And when it does that, it moves the tectonic plates and produces earthquakes. That earthquake is an alleviation of pressure to basically increase or decrease the strain on the core to increase or decrease the Earth's magnetic field to protect it against a coronal mass ejection. If you go back in history and you start looking at every single coronal mass ejection, you'll start seeing globally that there was earthquakes. And for every earthquake that you're going to have an adjustment, there's going to be a secondary earthquake to compensate for that adjustment. What I'm trying to show you is that the Earth has a compensatory mechanism of how it actually operates. So when this also occurs, the earth has this kind of symbiotic relationship with the sun. All planets do. That when the sun's energy increases, and the sun goes through 11-year solar cycles, when this energy increases, what happens is there increases the electrical propensity here on earth. And this happens in a place known as the ionosphere. Okay, so the solar bombardment of our atmosphere increases the electrical propensity of our ionosphere, which is an electrically charged area of our sky. Have you ever heard of something called the Schumann Resonance?
Yep.
All right. The Schumann Resonance actually takes part between the ionosphere and the surface of the Earth. It's actually the core of the Earth, as Nikola Tesla talked about. But 7.83 hertz is only one half of the wavelength. Okay, so 7.83 hertz is only half the wavelength, and that is to the ground of the ionosphere, the other parts to the core. Now, is when we send extremely low frequencies up to the ionosphere, we're screwing with the balance of the planet. So that means that if I overcompensate here, I have to have a compensatory mechanism that occur over here. So if I change a weather pattern over here, okay, eventually the weather has to compensate and reduce that energy, that excess energy that was added into the system. And this is why we see massive storms, fires. We see drought, or we see fires in the middle of Colorado in the middle of the winter. We see these horrific weather patterns that make no sense whatsoever. We see these massive tornadoes or these massive hurricanes that wipe out coastal lands, because what's happening is when I pull energy out, or I put energy into a system, that system has to recompensate for that energy expenditure or that energy increase. And it does that not today, not tomorrow, but down the road when it can actually start pulling that energy back out of the system. And so what we're seeing here with global warming is actually very, very real. It is due to the weather manipulation that's actually caused by these people or by this evil. And I actually think that whoever it is terraforming this planet. They're changing the actual climate on this planet on purpose. And I don't think they're human.
I love it. So it's almost like low tide, high tide, right? So the tide comes in, it's got to come out.
That's it. And so if you continuously have the tide come in, eventually you're going to be flooding the mainland.
You have that undertow.
Right. And then eventually when it does pull back, it's going to be a massive wave. That's exactly the great example of what it is. And this is what they're doing. They're utilizing that mechanism of manipulation to change weather patterns around the world.
So let's talk about Tonga. Do you believe that was my view of Tonga, the volcano, and it got hit twice. The second one was 7 times bigger than the first. I believe it was a nuclear sub. Just because, number one, it happened underwater. Number two, it hit twice. And that second one was 7 times bigger. I don't think that they could have controlled that to make that such an eruption. And then a couple of days after, have that eruption again. What are your views on that, on Tonga?
I think that we've been utilizing space-based weapon systems for a very long time to manipulate volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, and so forth. We just saw this, the Las Palmas volcano. We saw that someone came out and tried to debunk it, saying, oh, that grid pattern's really normal. You just have to zoom out. And no, that was definitely 100% directed energy weapons causing that volcano to erupt. They were trying to get it to actually tumble into the sea to produce a tidal wave to take out the eastern seaboard. And that is still a possibility here for the future. 100% that I think a lot of these things that we're seeing happening are man-made natural disasters. And we're going to see a man-made climate disaster within the next 5 years. And it's going to be a climate 9/11. And I think that we even could see it this year, a climate 9/11. And this is going to promulgate massive global change that's going to usher in the New World Order, that's going to usher in the Green New Deal, the Agenda 2030, everything that we've been talking about on our podcast of what these people are laying forth and how they're never going to give back up power. You know, you got to ask yourself this, Chris. They stole the 2020 election. Okay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They did. Do you think that they're going to let a whole bunch of American first candidates come in 2022 that are pro-Trump, that know that this happened? Do you think they're going to let them come in, take the Senate and take the Congress?
No,
they can't, because then they're dead. Then they hang.
I saw something that I shook my head. I'm going to share with you. I think they already have a plan. I think so. Look who just stepped down in Supreme Court.
Well, he didn't even know he stepped down. Did you know that? He had no idea he was retiring.
Right. You got to go. Yeah. What if, because Kamala and Biden have not been getting along, what if they stick her in the Supreme? Right? Now you got liberal Looney Tunes. You still have control. Now you have control. And then you stick in none other than Hillary as Vice President Biden. Biden becomes dementia. They do Article
25th, yep, 25th Amendment, yep, 25th Amendment.
25, boom, he's gone, and you have Hillary as president.
So I've heard a lot of these theories. Now, there's a few things. Loretta Lynch, Valerie Jarrett are two probable candidates. You have Kamala Harris. Now, one of the things they've said is if Kamala Harris steps down, that the Senate gets to appoint anybody they want as vice president, including former presidents like Barack Obama.
Barack Obama is another one.
That's right. He comes in, then they pull the 25th Amendment on Joe Biden. Barack Obama becomes the interim president. He appoints Hillary Clinton as his VP, and then she runs in 2024. But then that would allow them to take their military dictatorship or their dictatorship over the country in the interim. Now, here's the problem: is that would raise a lot of red flags. A lot of Republicans would probably go to war over something like that, especially Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. Yeah. But I think it's more plausible it's going to be Loretta Lynch, Valerie Jarrett, or it could even be Kamala potentially. What they do with that, I don't know. But the question is how do they stop the elections from happening in 2022? Because they can't allow the elections to happen.
It's unbelievable to even think about right now how they're going to stop it.
Well, let me ask you this: how surprised is Zelensky, the president of Ukraine right now, with the comments of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of Joe Biden?
Right.
Joe Biden's like, I'm warning you, they're going to topple Kiev once the ground freezes. And Zelensky's sitting there going, what are you talking about? Everything's fine. We're talking to Russia. Everything's good.
Everything is good here. We don't have war.
Yeah. But did you notice that all of this starts happening right after the World Economic Forum's Davos meeting ended? That's the new Bilderberg Group meeting. Right after that, all of a sudden, Russia's going to invade Ukraine. Russia's going, what are you guys talking about? Right. Watch out for a false flag in Kiev and Ukraine. It's coming. And NATO is going to slam Russia because Russia's teamed up with China and China's rogue from the globalists. This is what we've been talking about. So what we're going to see here is you're going to see a world war break out.
I see a false flag roll. Yep.
Then you're going to see a global economic collapse. You have the hyperinflation of the dollar. You're going to see a call on the housing moratorium where all those people who took out deferred loans during the original COVID, the banks are going to call in those loans. They're going to kick you out of their house, which means that if you show up one day and the sheriff just locked you out of your house, are you going to get your guns and your ammo?
Good luck.
Not happening. They just repossess everything. So that's 20 to 28% of Americans right now are in that boat. At the same time, global economic collapse. Let's say a new variant comes about. They lock everything down again. So that means that people no longer have jobs. They no longer have incomes. The supply chain is disrupted. We're at a global war. So you're going to see cyber attacks on our infrastructure. People are going to be homeless, sick, hungry, poor. Well, guess what? They have everything they need to take down America. And guess what? Elections are suspended right now as well. Ooh. That's the next 18 months.
Ooh, interesting.
I don't want to be right, buddy. I don't want to be right. I don't want this to be right.
I'm 100%. I mean, I told you mine, and I've shared it and I'll share it again. I think it's going to be a dead man bounce. I think that, Trump is going to come back and he's going to be like, look, I'm your savior. Look what I did. Look what I did. Look what I did. Ooh. And everybody's like, oh, we got our guy. I told you. And isn't it crazy that Lucifer fell from heaven because of pride, with so much pride, right? So then Americans going to be filled with all this pride. And then I believe Trump is going to show you the snake that he really is. That song he keeps saying, right? And everybody's like, oh, who's this? Is this, Ouchie Fauci? Who is this? No, it's him. And I think what's going to happen is he's going to come back and push it so hard. And I truly believe that he's the false prophet. And that book that Ingersoll did, he talks about Trump being the last president. Yeah. Because he's going to be one of the kings. Remember, there is 10 kings.
Interesting.
And he is, Israel's, savior.
Yeah. Well, that's truth right there. He definitely was Israel's savior. I could actually see that playing out like that. Mm-hmm. who knows? I mean, you know what? I don't know the man. I can't judge the character of the man. I don't know.
And Josh, and that's, think about it. What Trump had that no other president had, Christians.
Yeah.
Christians worshiping him.
Well, and Reagan was the last one to have that, but yeah.
Right. And what's the whole agenda? To have one world religion. So if you're going to take out the Muslims first, then you go after the Christians. If you've got 60% of his, his supporters are Christians, they're going to fall and die by that sword.
Yeah, very well could be, man. It's a scary thought to think about, but
that's why we can't have allegiance to no man, no woman, right? To Jesus Christ himself, and that's it. When I love that when people say, "Well, when's this going to happen, Christopher?" When that, it doesn't matter. All I know is God wins in the end, and that's all I care about. That's all I care about.
And it goes back to what we just talked about. It's all about community. It's all about rising up and standing up. It's all about reestablishing a more ethical foundation in your family. Yep. With get right with your family. Get right with your loved ones. Yep. Because that's where this starts. That's where that battle is. This is a spiritual battle, and if you're not right with your spouse or your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your neighbors, you can never be right with your country. And the foundation of the country will deteriorate over the failed relationships of each and every individual in this country if we do not stick to some type of moral and ethical foundation, rise ourselves back up and just say, hey, look, I don't care your political affiliation. I don't care even what you think about the vaccine. I love you. I love you. You know what? If you want to get the vaccine, you know what? I tried to help you. And I know you tried to help me, but we can just agree to disagree. Sure enough, I still love you. I'm wishing the best health in the world.
Before I moved, I sat at a table, multi-millionaires, my best friend, and I was the only one that did not have the Fauci. Mm-hmm. And but you know what? I love them. He's my best friend. I've been friends with him for 12 years now. I love him to death. His family, he married into a great family. You know what I mean? McDonald's, and so now their family's my family. You know what I mean? Yep. Best man at the wedding and everything. And to what you said, Josh, and that's why the events that I want to do, we're going to do together. It's not just going to be a Christian revival. It's not just going to be for the right. It's going to be for everyone. It's going to be for the 20-year-olds. It's going to be for the 30. It's going to be for the 40. It's going to be for the people that voted for Biden. It's going to be for the people that are unvaccinated. It's going to be for the people that are vaccinated. There's going to be no censorship. None. It's going to be how it should be. No censorship. Everyone is allowed. Look, I might not agree with your philosophy. I might not agree with your views, but so what? So what? It doesn't matter. You're a human being, and I'm going to respect you as one.
That's right. That's how we bring this back, man.
That's it.
That's how this happens.
There's 31 flavors in Baskin Robbins. Why? Because not everybody likes vanilla and chocolate.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like if God made people like that, then it would be a different world, but we're not like that. We're made to be different. We're made to be different. And that is how we love it. That's, why I go around when I speak and I teach people how to love one another, connect to the heart, go up to somebody and just say, hey, listen, I love you, man. Jesus Christ loves you. Jesus Christ loves you. Let me give you a hug. And it starts from that and that connection, that human connection. And, to put it full circle, what we talked about earlier, the frequency, the water, the magnet, right? That connecting like that, that is the human spirit. And we've lost that. We've lost touch with the human spirit. Right. We've lost touch with one another. We've got to get back. We've got to, call one another up and say, hey, how you doing?
That's right.
I talk to you, I text you, hey, what's going on? How you feeling? Right? Because if not, guess what happens? Humanity goes away. There's no reason for humanity anymore.
That's no right. For one another. And think about it this way as well, is a house is only as good as the foundation that it's built on. Mm-hmm. And see, the problem with our country, the problem with our federal government, the problem in our states right now is not corrupt politicians. It is, but you have to understand where the root cause of that problem comes from. The root cause of that problem comes from the fact that most households don't have God in them anymore. Most households don't have a father that is loving and caring for that family. Most households don't have a mother and father that communicate and love their children and helping them grow and educate them properly. Right. And see, that moral and ethical foundation right there in that household is how they took out America, because they took the father out of the household. They took the father and the mother and the son out of church on Sundays.
Yeah, equal rights.
They took the mom.
Women.
Yep. Yeah. They took mom out of the household. They put the son in the indoctrination centers. And what that does is that destroys the community. When you destroy the community, you destroy the city. When you destroy the city, you destroy the state. When you destroy the state, you destroy the country. And so you need that moral and ethical foundation in the house, because if you have a strong moral and ethical foundation in that household, if you have a good mother and father who are there for their children, for their family, and growing that family, and they have a good establishment of God in that family, then you have a strong community. If you have a strong community, you have a strong city. If you have a strong city, you have a strong state, strong country. And that's how America was for the longest time. Not anymore. Not anymore. We need to get back there. We need to start reestablishing this.
Right. You're absolutely right. We took the father, then we took the mother out, and we took God out. We took God out of everything. When we started taking God out of schools, I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? What are we doing? You can't, do you understand that you can't have the ability to love someone or yourself if you don't have God in your life? I'm sorry. I know that's crazy, but God is love. So if you don't have God in your heart or in your life, you might think that you love somebody. You might be infatuated. You might like, but there's no way. Why am I telling you this? Because I know. Because I for 17 years, I knew God, I knew Jesus Christ, but I didn't intimately know him. And then one day I intimately knew him. And guess what happened? My relationships, my friendships, my business relationships, right? They all started to grow exponentially. And I was like, what's going on? Like, why don't I get angry? Why am I not angry like I used to? Why don't I have rage? Why don't I have road rage? Because I knew that there was somebody that loved me more than anybody in the world, that never left my side, that never threw a punch at me, that never called me a name. And when I told him, get the hell out of my life, get away from me, when I didn't like him anywhere, guess what he said? I'm right here. I'm not leaving you. Yeah. And so to what you said, Josh, absolutely. And when people realize that, and that's what I want people to get from our events that we do. Yes, I want you to listen to music. Yes, I want you to have a good time. I want you to go up to strangers and introduce yourself and say hello. Yep. Right? But that's what I want people to get. I want that community. I don't want there to be lines and the separation and division. I want us all.
Don't want people to be getting sick afterwards. Don't want Japanese guys showing up trying to infiltrate it and being removed by the police. Don't need 5 security problems occur within the first hour of the event.
Yes. Right. Like let me tell you, so there should be no security situation. I've done events away from that are great, and I haven't had one issue. And here's why. They're more open. When you're open, when you don't just say, okay, you know what, only these people are allowed, you're not going to have those issues because you're opening it to everybody. It's not a secret society.
Exactly.
It's not
100%, man.
So love you, brother. Let everybody know how they could find you, where they could watch you.
Yeah, man. You guys can find me at redpills.tv. That's REDPILLS.TV. That is our primary website. You can also find us at redpillpodcasts.com. We do a podcast 6 days a week. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's not, but I do mine daily dose Monday through Thursday, as well as Friday night. We have a lot of conversations on the fringe. We talk about the weird, the wacky, the unusual, things that are just outside of the normal. We like talking about those types of things. And then during the weekdays, we do our political kind of understanding of the Agenda 2030, communism coming to America and how to change that, what type of actionary steps you can take. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight, we kind of go over and help people understand.
Yep. What a great time, Josh. I knew we were going to have a great time. I'm sure we're going to do this more than once. And obviously we're going to do events together. Guys, just remember, we always end with salvation prayer, but always flex your mind, flex your muscles, flex your truth. That way you're aligned here with Jesus Christ. You could go out and do his work, his will, his way to others and with others. But using his word. So, look, if you're sitting here and say, man, I want to get right. I want to get right with God. I don't know if today was my last day on this earth. I don't know where I'm going to go, Chris and John. I don't know. Well, here's what I could tell you. I could help you. Want me to help you? Raise your hand up and say, look, Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me grace and mercy and for you to come down and to be persecuted and to lay there and die on the cross for me, for little old me, for my sins that I committed. Thank you so much. And I apologize. I am so sorry for those sins that I've committed up until now. And I want them to be all washed away. So I repent all my sins, Jesus Christ, to you. I denounce Satan. I invite you into my life, into my heart. And I now know I'm heaven bound and I'm a child of God. Congratulations. You said that, listen. That is the beginning. That is not the all. That's not like a VIP pass to heaven. Go open up a Bible. Go open up the book. Start reading Proverbs. Proverbs is applicable to your life. Look, I started reading the Bible and Proverbs. And in this last year, I've read the Bible so much. And let me tell you what it's done. It's got me educated. I see what's going on in the world, like Josh and I are talking about, right? Because that Bible is a history of where we are, but more important, where we're going. So God bless you. Thank you so much, Joshua. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Chris.